and you are watching another Blitz film review. He has that ability to, trust me, he definitely does. Just his ability to catch balls outside of his frame, his leaping ability, his ability to hang in the air, his yak ability, it's all there. Lowers his helmet, low man wins, bang, rocks the guy.
Hall running free, Brees Hall inside the 10, he's gonna score!
The corners all do their job. You know, if you look at the picture right here, lock.
3rd and 1. Stevens always drilled. What a great defensive play.
I don't try to Monday morning quarterback any of the reviews I do, and I'll try to be honest with a lot of the things I put up. And you are watching/listening to another edition of Blue Blitz. By the way, I don't really promote it too often, but sometimes I remember to. If you are a YouTuber or you're a YouTube guy and so you prefer to watch it, great. If you can't, 2-hour podcast. 2-hour podcast, then obviously download it. You know, drive in the car to work, kids to school, whatever you got to do. But it is available in the podcast app, Blue Blitz. Blitz. So if you can leave a review there, 5 stars, that'd be great. Sorry I was a little bit late again. I created a stream for my phone, and then I realized that I created a stream but through the wrong profile, so I couldn't use certain things. I couldn't upload the show to the podcast audio afterwards because I was on the wrong StreamYard. Bunch of shit. I fucked up. Now we're here. Everything should be good to go with me. So I skipped last week. Apologies, but not really. Just busy. Obviously, with the new kid and stuff, just crazy schedule. And there wasn't a ton to talk about, even though there's kind of always something to talk about when you have you guys in here and you guys help me out, kind of give me topics and give me talking points. Then we kind of just I talk at you guys, but I always appreciate it. So didn't see the need to do it last week. Didn't want to push it. Even this week, there's really not a ton to talk about. I have a few bullet points I'll get to. If there's nothing in the chat, and then I'll obviously just talk to the chat again. I apologize for making a new stream. I saw Dakota in here. He was in the stream before, left a bunch of messages or whatever, and unfortunately I deleted it, so I couldn't read them all. Curly Norman was in the other one as well. He's here. What's up, Curly? What's up, Matt? Good Lord, no Dakota, and he says can be in 2 places at one time. Again, I apologize for making 2 streams. And then NY Jet Superfan, what's up, Joe B? So I guess the biggest news, and again, we'll see how long this even goes, and we'll see if the chat is popping or not. But this week, the Super Bowl happened, which I hope you guys enjoyed. I wanted the Niners to win just because they haven't won in 30 years or so. It's been at least since the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, with the 49ers, plus the whole Mahomes bitching at the ref things a little bit more than I think he should. So I kind of soured on him a little bit. And then I am, unfortunately, one of the get off my lawn guys with the Taylor Swift stuff. I don't like it pushed in my face as much as it is. So I was hoping that they weren't going to win, and you got to see all the celebrities kind of walk out sad, but it is what it is. The Chiefs ended up pulling it out. Still a good game, overtime, obviously, but fun to watch nonetheless. You saw I think Karlaftis made some plays, and Trent McDuffie was arguably the Super Bowl MVP for that defense. I don't know if you guys remember back to that draft. He was actually my corner too, over Stingley, which might sound crazy. And I know Stingley has done quite a bit at the NFL level as well. And I know part of the reason that I ranked Stingley so low was just his injury history, and then he had a really strong year or two, and then his final year was not so strong. So I actually ranked McDuffie above him, and to see McDuffie play the way he did was impressive. I always loved his game, really technically sound, really feisty. Karlaftis is making plays for that team. So 2022 draft stock is up with those. But again, overall a good game in that one. But let's see who else in the chat. PM. I want to says PM. Hey boys, what's up? Project Prospect. I know Dom C went out to the Senior Bowl. I saw a bunch of his tweets with interviews, and like scouting reports and stuff like that. So if you want, go check out Dom C on Twitter. I'm not sure you're it's like DC_ something, but Dom C on Twitter. I follow him, so you can go and follow him there and see if you like his stuff. I'll promote it because I think he does a good job and definitely is a worker. Let's keep going down. Hey, Joe, I'm at work stopping by to check in. Hope you and the family are good. Yeah, it's been good. I've learned crash course into how to change a diaper properly, how to change a diaper efficiently, when to change a diaper, and then just learning the sleep schedule and stuff. It's a little bit harder because he's doing, he's being breastfed. So it's a little bit more on the parents with the breastfeeding, obviously more so the mom, but I got to wake up like every 3 hours at nighttime right now. So it's not so bad. Every 3 hours is not too bad, but easy. It's not bad when he goes to sleep immediately after the bottle. When he doesn't and he wants to be up for another hour and a half and he's wired, those suck because then you're up from 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, bouncing a newborn in your kitchen silent. Like, it's just, I don't know. Matt says, Joe, how much do you think these guys, sorry, let me exit this out so you can see my full face, I guess, if you even want to. Joe, how much do you think these guys up the roster in terms of the AFC East Hold on, Joe, how much do you think these guys up the roster in terms of the AFC East to compete for this division?
What the hell is even that?
You got me there, Matt. Maybe if I read it slower. How much do you think these guys up the roster in terms of the AFC East to compete? Yeah, you got to give me another one with that one. One thing I will say, just in terms of like rosters, and it made me think about it, just kind of trying to cover my grounds here, my bases. I did more reviews, so I don't know where I was in terms of my reviews with the last show. I can tell you that I finished all of the draft prospects I'll do for now, just because NFL free agency is obviously coming a couple of weeks from now. I'm going to be concerned with what offensive lineman did they sign? What receiver did they sign? Did they sign a running back? Did they sign a D tackle? Did they sign a safety? So I'm going to be trying to pump through those reviews. So I don't want to put too much into the draft because a lot of things can happen. So I broke down the most likely Jets targets, in my opinion, the most likely guys at 10. So I finished all 7 of my reviews. I still have to go back and actually record them. I want to wait a little bit for the actual recording of the actual film breakdown, like me breaking down the film live and then putting it out there. They're usually anywhere. I know like Fashanu's like 35 plays, so he might be, an hour and a half. Latham's like 60. So that might be 3-hour review or so. So those can be quite lengthy, but I want to make sure I have like some prospect measurables, combine stuff, interviews. So I want to be able to speak a little bit more like to date with those guys when I do those shows. So when they release in March, I'm not outdated by 2 months. Like, oh yeah, we don't know his combine numbers. It's like, hey Joe, the combine numbers were out 4 weeks ago. Where have you been? It's like, no, I recorded that 2 months ago. So I want to wait a little bit for the actual recordings. But Fashanu, Bowers, Latham, Odunze, Fuaga, and I think the 2 guys who I watched, who I really didn't have an opinion on, the last stream was Alt and Neighbors. And just quickly, I can kind of answer questions about either one of those guys if people ask them. But in general, I like Alt, and I think Alt is the number 1 tackle in this class. But what watching Alt did for me was it kind of eliminated the possibility of trading up for Alt. Depending on the picks. Now, let's say it's pick 8 or 9. Somehow he falls. The Jets want to trade up. Okay, I understand that. But like the trade ups to 5 or 6, where it's really, really going to cost you a lot, I would not do that. I think Alt is the best tackle in the class. Do I think Alt is some stud tackle? I do not. And a lot of that comes from him being a little bit off balance. I want him to close ground a little bit more with guys. He tends to, lock guys out. And keep them locked out. But you really want to see guys get that quarter turn, get that back activated. You want to start to see them pull in guys and really control them by the chest plate and have them as tight as they can possibly be. You want those, you want your arms basically, at a flat angle to your chest. You don't want length. When you have length, you have less control. And Alt has a big problem with that in his game, just keeping guys at length instead of kind of, closing that ground. And then there's some problems with his anchor. One, just his size being 6'8", naturally his hips are high, so he's not going to have the best anchor. But with his anchor, he also has some problems getting into it. Again, and typically it comes from his lack of closing the ground, and it's, excuse my French here, but I'll literally put in my notes, tip to tip. You can't follow that. I don't know, but get tip to tip. That's what you want, tip to tip and lift. He tends to create distance and push. A lot of the anchor is lifting. It's not pushing. A lot of football in general is lifting, not necessarily pushing. If you're actually trying to legitimately move a guy. So I saw some problems there in his game. And then in the run game, he's a little bit shaky in the run game. I would say decent, really good pass protector, but just decent in the run game. So he's good. And again, overall, the number 1 offensive line prospect for me. But I was maybe a little bit lower on him than the hype he garners. Still, again, number one, just not a trade up candidate for me, unless it's, again, 8 or 9. 5 or 6, talk about giving up a lot for him. Do I think there's that much of a huge gap between him, Latham, Fashanu, Fuaga? No, so a couple picks, again, I understand it, but just, that's about it. Not 5 or 6. Past that, I did watch. I'm starting to prep my Jets player reviews, and it's something I actually want to put in the chat. Maybe I'll do that now. I finished, and again, I still have to record them. I finished McDonald. I finished Carter Warren, because these are kind of guys who people are talking about for bigger roles potentially in 2024, that I wanted to go back and specifically watch, because when you watch the games, I'm doing these 50, 60, 70 play reviews, you could gloss over a play from Carter Warren or Will McDonald when you're not actually paying attention to them. You're just looking for things that stand out. But obviously, when you're watching them on that individual rep, you pick up more, admittedly. So I wanted to go back and watch a couple of guys who have some question marks about their 2023 and may have bigger roles in 2024. And then past that, I'm going to get into some of the bigger guys who people are going to want to see regardless. But I watched every single one of McDonald's snaps. This is not special teams. I don't want to watch special teams, but I did McDonald, I did Carter Warren, I did Tony Adams, and I did Jeremy Ruckert. I'm on like game 5 or 6 of Tippin. So those 5 guys are already almost done. And then I'm going to do Sauce, Wilson, JJ, the next 3, and then Brees after that. And then I want to do Michael Carter II, Q, Quincy, Conklin, or Reed. So I'm gonna put up 2 polls. I think I want to ask you guys which one. And this is for the people who watch the actual film reviews. I know that there's people who watch the live streams who don't necessarily watch the film reviews, but I'm curious to see if you guys want Sauce Wilson or JJ next. So I'm gonna put that in the stream in a couple of minutes when I remember to do it. But quickly with those guys, McDonald, I would say pretty impressive. He has a very, very high ceiling still. He has some surprising pop in his punch and under his pads, considering his size. So he already has some power to his game if he can learn how to just take on the run better and have better awareness. Or if he adds from the 242, I think he has, or 245 to 250, 255, you could see a player who's legitimately like plus NFL strength at the end, not just, he can hold up. Or, instead of it gaining, let's say 10 pounds to what we thought he would have to gain, or what we thought he'd have to gain to be average, he may just be able to gain from, let's say 242 he is right now to 249. And it's like, okay, that's good enough, So McDonald, I would say higher on than I previously thought. Carter Warren, I'm telling you guys right now, do not buy the hype. Again, this is something that I should maybe know from just watching the games, but especially towards the end of the season, you start to gloss over. And then again, you add the 53 other players or 52 other players, you can gloss over some players. And I saw some people, I don't know if it was Doozable or Willie Colon or whoever it was on Twitter. I'm telling you right now, I have a 60 play review. 45 of them are of him getting abused. He cannot be the right tackle. He cannot be the left tackle next year. If he's your OT 4 or 5, okay, maybe. Like I'm okay with him at offensive tackle 4. Sorry, geez. I'm okay with him at offensive tackle 4 if he doesn't have to play, which is kind of a problem, right? So, like, I'm not comfortable with him and I'm not comfortable with Mitchell, but what do you do with them? So you need a legitimate backup tackle this offseason, because if you think it's Carter Warren, again, there's 60 plays. If I got to play 45 of them in a row right now for you guys to get it, I will. It is ugly. So no on Carter Warren. Past that, Tony Adams, I thought he was pretty just average bumps. He didn't really get beat deep a lot, if at all, over his head. So he's really, really saved deep. He has really good man coverage skills, more so on tight ends than on receivers. But there was situations where he was covering Waddle. So he has some good man coverage skills, which allows you to use him all the, high, low. He was blitzing. He was playing in the box. He has to work on his angles. He has to work on his tackle form, bending at the waist, not driving his feet. But in general, solid coverage safety who has some work to do with tackling. But for a UDFA's, I know it's not his technical rookie year, but like for all purposes, his rookie year, the first time he's actually played legitimate snaps minus a game or two last year. I thought he was fine, which is okay. Like if your free safety is fine, we'll sign up for that, considering all the other strengths we have on the team. And that's not even considering the fact that he is going to improve most likely, from year 2 to 3, he's going to improve with another year in the defense. So plus for him, I would say Rucker, Watched him. I'm kind of indifferent on Ruckert. I could see him in like not a great situation being your tight end 2, in a good situation being your tight end 3. And with that being said, I'm not saying that Ruckert can't be a good tight end 2. I'm saying that he has not proven or shown me enough to be a reliable tight end 2. Now, with that being said, he wasn't utilized a lot with like his route running and stuff. He wasn't really put in a lot of situations where it could shine. It was a lot of like snags. It was a lot of chip and releases to the flats, arrows. It was a lot of seams, but he wasn't really targeted a ton. On the instances he was targeted, I think like the Chiefs game, there's another deep ball. Zach put on his back shoulder, late hands, ability to catch the ball. He's pretty smooth. He's pretty feisty. Not a guy you necessarily want as your inline blocking tight end, but kind of a question mark at tight end too. So kind of open up the possibility for them to bring a tight end to me. I'm not talking about necessarily Bowers or what's the Dalton Schultz, who's a free agent. I'm not talking about that, but maybe somebody else out there, maybe we'll look up names later, but relatively indifferent on him. In terms of his blocking, it's pretty solid. He definitely needs to stop getting out in front of his skis so often. Definitely needs to just control himself in space more. Past that, Tippmann, still pretty early. I'm impressed. Tippmann's good, man. It's you have some issues with low hand carriage with his hand shooting from low and his hand shooting from high and wide at times as well. So his hands are kind of all over the place. But he has really good like redirective power, redirective balance. He has really good understanding of scheme. I've been pretty damn impressed with Tippmann. So I just wanted to give you kind of a roundabout thing of your thoughts of what I've done the last couple of weeks. And then past that, like I said, I do want to get that poll up here just so you guys can kind of dictate to me. I know you guys aren't overly interested in like, I care about this review so much that it's going to get released in a month from now or 2 months from now or 5 months from now, whatever it's going to be. But it would be helping me out if you guys could help me out with the vote here, so I could kind of have it solidified. Let me just see. How do you even do? Give me 2 seconds. Let's see. Blue Splits. How do you? I don't know when the last time I did a Twitter poll was. I don't know if I know how to do it. Okay, I think I can do it. Go down here. This, that. Okay, cool. Poll. Review. Let's put review. It's in between Sauce, JJ, and Wilson. Garrett Wilson, obviously, for whoever goes first. I'm just curious your guys' general thoughts on that, and then I'll go off of it. Let's keep going down. Dom, you doing any live streams tonight? Dom, are you doing any live streams tonight? Marvin said, "Did you LOL when Hardman caught the winning?" I didn't LOL it. I knew immediately that there was going to be articles out there or tweets out there like, "Oh, the Jets," and I think it was like Travis Kelce or Mahomes. I think it was Travis Kelce said, "Oh, the Jets gave up on him." And Nania put out an article basically saying how bad he actually was with the Chiefs once he got there, like yards per target or whatever the hell the stats were. But it's not like he was a game changer for them when he went back. He kind of went back there and did what he did with the Jets and with the Chiefs prior to that, a lot of nothing. And he caught I forget what the route even was. I know it was in the flat or it was an arrow or it was like a slide route, but it was to the flat, completely designed open, wide open. And he caught the ball. So it wasn't like, he caught 13 posts and he was making a hell of good plays on the ball. And then I would be like, okay, what the fuck, man? It's more like, of course. Now I'm waiting for Rich Samini to tweet out all the Jets or Josina Anderson to put out another stupid tweet and then delete that one too, because that's what she does. She deletes things and she just can't speak English or type English. So that's what I was more frustrated about. But overall, I didn't really give a shit, dude. I was having a good time. I'm not so butthurt at this point. It is what it is. Like, let's just win, And even with these stories, just in general, kind of the general, we're talking about the general numbers for the Jets. It's, we'll talk about the Woody Johnson comments in a little while, and obviously the stream. I think I labeled it as Woody making a pecker out of himself, which I might have to change the wording because I know the Jets do keep tabs, so maybe I shouldn't say that making a pecker out of himself. But I'm asking the question. I didn't say he did or did not. You have to listen, Jets, to figure out the result if you are. But yeah, even with that, it's just like you see it and it pops up. I'm kind of like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, I don't care. Just like, give me the free agents, get me the guys in the draft. Let me break down actual tangible film. I don't want to talk about the storyline shit anymore. Just win next year. But I can't deal with all the other stupid bullshit that's going on, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So Matt says, I agree 100%. I don't know what to, but thank you. Hello, and I think you're right. I think that's a good idea. Just agree. Hello from Florida. Hello to you, Gangrene. Who's your first three offensive tackles if you did the work yet? Yeah, Matt. You've been here. I'm pretty sure you've been here. My number one, relatively easily. I'm not going to say it's a landslide though. Is Alt. My number two is pretty easily Latham. I'm not saying there's a massive gap between Latham and Fashanu. But then I would say three is for the Jets, Fashanu. For other teams, it may be Fuaga, specifically for teams who are either a power team, power counter ankle blocking at as a run-based team, so he could play tackle, or a team who's just gonna say, "Hey, listen, we think this guy can be an all-pro guard. We're gonna go to guard." But the questions about his athleticism to tackle do scare me a little bit. Um, his his ability to get lateral scares me when guys are crossing his face. And there was that rep even last week that people were promoting on the Senior Bowl. I said, "Oh, great rep from Fuaga because he pancaked the guy." But you don't realize that he let the guy like get 3 or 4 yards deep into the backfield, cross his face, and he continued to cross his face. So if the quarterback was there on a 3 or 5 step drop, he's fucked. Now let's say that again, I'm not privy to necessarily the drills or how they laid it out. If they said, "Hey, the quarterback's taking a 7-step drop. Here's the set point," and he blocked him in front of his face, okay. If it was a 3 or 5-step drop, he was screwed. So one of my concerns with Fuaga is his lack of movement and able to adjust quickly to lateral movement. Guys crossing his face. A little bit worried about the outside hand with Fuaga. Sometimes it's very wide. Either where it lands or his carriage is very wide and low. So a little bit concerned about him on an island. So I would say he's my 4, but for other teams maybe my 3. But it's definitely Alt, Latham, and then those two guys are battling it out for 3 and 4 right now. But I saw the tweet. Somebody tweeted out like a bunch of good Fashanu pass reps, and I showed you guys the plays I think 2 weeks ago. Said, "Hey, listen, he has all these great plays. What about these really shitty plays?" So I don't want to pull up that again, just because I don't want to like beat a dead horse. And I'm not even trying to be labeled like some Fashanu hater. I just don't think he's some top 2 stud tackle lock. It's just not to me. So again, yeah, not to be a dead horse. If you want to go back and watch those plays, I probably pulled up 10 to 12 plays of him getting, quite frankly, his ass whooped at times. So I'm a little bit worried about his pro readiness, and then even his super pro ready pass protection. It works at times, but I'm worried about guys bull rushing the shit of him because, again, typically he kind of just throws an inside hand that's more of like a catch hand, and it's just kind of to feel where a guy's at. It doesn't deliver any actual power. And then his left hand, then he kind of leaves his feet in his left hand, catches you where you're going. But there's not a lot of forcefulness in terms of like direct angles with his punches. It's more tap you with the right, catch you with the left, and then let me rely on my strong grip strength and good anchor as a college level to then lock you down. The problem is if you're going wide, relatively ineffective punch in terms of delivering a pop with the right hand, because he kind of just does the same thing where he taps him on top of the shoulder pad and then tries to catch them with the left hand and the outside hand. Guys are going to time it and they're going to bull rush the shit out of you. So it's ready, but it's not like he's going to be a stud pass protector right away with his current technique. So yeah, he's my 3rd. Rex Ryan said you to make sure you volunteer to change the diapers while the baby's breastfed, not as stinky. Yeah, it's not as bad. It's kind of like it kind of almost smells like sweet, but shit's not going to bother me. Like the only thing that bothers me is like I don't like actively getting shit on. I'm not a person to be like, oh, and I start gagging. But I don't like having to then change 2 or 3 layers of clothes, the changing table, baths. That's the annoying part about getting shit on. It's not even the actual smell of the shit, but Q Joe, if we can cut players post June 1st, when can we use the money we save for the cap right away or after? So I am not a contract guy, NY Jet Super fan for sure. I'm admittedly pretty terrible. I know you can only use 1 or 2 post June 1st designations. Sorry, so you only have 1 or 2 of those where you could just release a player really early, I believe. So I'm assuming they did that for the reason. For that exact reason, so they could spend that money right away. So it's like, hey, free agency opens in March, but shit, we're not going to get Mike Tomlinson $13 million off until June. This is really going to fuck us. So the NFL kind of, however many years ago said, okay, we'll let you have, a or 2 or 3 post June 1st to get that money right away. I am 90% sure. We'll leave 10% chance I'm wrong on that. And maybe I'm wrong on the exact terminology, the exact details of it. But I'm pretty sure, okay, like Laken Tomlinson, $13 million, they can cut him and then have that money now. I think. Do not kill me if I'm wrong, because admittedly, again, I'm pretty terrible with the cap stuff. Curly Norman says, is it true that Fashanu is the best pure pass blocking tackle that you've watched? People keep saying that for some reason. I would say he is. It's not bulletproof, right? And I kind of just described why. Again, I want more straight angles in his punching. He does a lot of what it's technically called like a hug technique. Even though a hug technique is like the straight up hugging right off the jump, he kind of just throws like more like a feeler punch out there with the inside. And again, catches you with the inside or with the outside, but you need more straight angles to really deliver pop, and then specifically to get into guys' chest plate, because the most important part is it's not necessarily the pop, it's the pop, but it's the post quarter turn latch, and then pulling him into you, and you basically rolling your hips up and trying to get, again, for lack of a better term, tip to tip with him, roll your hips up and through and lift him. But with Fashanu, a lot of what he's doing is hugging. It's a lot of wide hand placement. And again, that can work versus, let's say, I don't know, lighter DN, Brian Burns. And he might not be that light anymore. Let's say he's like 250. Will McDonald, 242. That's going to work. You see Cam Jordan like that. Watch out. So he's pro ready versus speed rushers. Maybe. I don't know. So, I would say best pure. Oh, no, sorry. Alt is better. Alt is better as a pass blocker. Out of the next 3 guys, he is the most pro ready, but not bulletproof. That's how I want to answer that question. I'd also like to raise my mic a little. Okay, kind of in the way. How's its poll doing? How do I view? Okay, JJ, then Sauce, then Wilson. Okay, and poll. That one. Now my next question is, I'm gonna do another one really quick, and then I'm gonna be done with the polls. Then I'm gonna do those 9 players. My next one's going to be Marco. Oh, sorry. Next is gonna be Michael Carter II. And these are ones that I might legitimately not do the next guy. So like I might not even get to these ones, but I'm legitimately curious. Like this is the one I want to know even more, because I may not get to all these guys. The ones I just listed, I am 1,000% getting to them. Conklin, and we got Quincy. Okay, so next vote is between Michael Carter II, Q, Conklin, and Quincy Williams. Start the poll again. I'm gonna keep answering some questions. Let me pull something back up too. Okay. Oh, other thing I want to cover too, and this is just some of the notes I have in my stream or in my notes section of my laptop. But Chad Alexander, that's something I didn't really comment on too much. He was I forget his exact role in the Jets, or the exact label, but he was basically the third in command in terms of like the front office. It was Joe Douglas, it was Rex Hogan, it was Chad Alexander. So he left for the assistant GM spot, I believe, with the Chargers. And people were questioning, like, hey, it's either one of 2 things, which I agree. It's either one of 2 things. One, the Jets wanted to promote him to assistant GM, and he said no and left for the same job somewhere elsewhere, which is a concern in terms of like just maybe the volatility of the Jets front office. Or the Jets said, no, we don't necessarily think you're ready for the assistant GM spot. You're going to stay here as your role now. And he said, screw that. I'm going to go get a promotion. So either way, it depends on which side you believe. Maybe he just wasn't ready. Again, I'm going to hold out hope at this point and just hope that he had a large part in the pro player personnel, and that's why they weren't going to promote him, and that's why he left. Again, I'll be positive. If you want to be negative, the Jets offer him the promotion. They're a fucking mess. He left for the Chargers, who aren't even a great organization, even though they got Jim now, and hopefully they'll be a little bit better, or hopefully not, realistically, because they're in the AFC. We're a shit show. So, like, which way do you want to look at it? We don't know. It's impossible to know, so just wanted to go over that. Another little thing that was kind of, or not little thing, it's the title, but I put it as a title just because it was a little bit catchy. Transparency. The whole Woody Johnson thing, I don't really necessarily know the quotes. I know that there's 2 big problems with it. What are you saying that he was mad this season and it was the maddest that Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have ever seen him or that anybody's ever seen him or whatever the fuck he said. But then that same guy who's so mad for the Jets and so mad for the fans and so mad how all this shit went, then turns around and raises fucking ticket prices. I don't know. How mad are you? You don't seem that mad because you just fucked your fans again and asked for not only more money, but the money earlier. How mad are you? So like, okay, bullshit there. You had him saying that the Jets didn't have a backup quarterback next year. Well, hey, the guys you hired said that they were supposed to be a redshirt year, and nobody did anything. So everybody just sat on their hands. So their problem, as well as your problem. Why the unnecessary shots at Zach? He's out the door. We're trying to, again, I don't think anybody's going to, Woody Johnson is saying that we don't have a backup quarterback is going to necessarily lower his stock, but it's not going to help his stock either. So why say it? Kind of stupid. And then another Woody Johnson thing, which I guess we can just get into the secondary topic of this, is the whole right after the Super Bowl, we're watching good football, this stuff, overtime, good football, hoping where the Jets are going to be next year. And 2 seconds after it ends, I don't know if the players are off the field yet, and Woody Johnson announces fucking jerseys, like not a later date, like immediately after the Super Bowl. Like immediately after the Super Bowl ended, you're like, "Oh, new jerseys next year. Like next season, Jets win the off season. Here we are again." It's not necessarily like, "Oh, like what does it matter?" It's just more so embarrassing. Like 12 o'clock at night, tweeting out about jerseys. Like have an official announcement, a couple of I don't know. It just seems like he's trying to attention grab, and we know that he pays attention to social media. He knows what the Giants are doing. He knows what the Daily News is saying. He knows what ESPN is saying. So, just a really bad look in my opinion. Now, with that being said, the new uniforms, we expected it. We're getting the white legacy throwback. We're getting the green legacy throwback, which I'm assuming is just inverted of the white. Mostly white and a little bit of green to mostly green, a little bit of white, and then they're making I think they announced that they're making a black one too. So whatever the black alternate's going to be, I don't know. I don't know if they announced the decal because the decal, or no, they announced the decal. Well, no, they didn't announce the decal. I guess we're assuming it's going to be the Jets' old swoosh, but maybe they add some of the new flavor and they put the Jets swoosh in a circle or something like that. We don't necessarily know, but I'm happy that the uniforms are changing. I know there are people out there who say, "Oh," and I said this before, like, "Oh, I hate that. I don't care if the Jets wear tutus. I want them to win." It's like, great. If that's your opinion, then maybe just like shut up and stop like pissing everybody's Cheerios. Because again, it's not that people aren't not allowed to have that opinion. Like, oh, just win. But why put it out there? Like people are actively excited about it and talking about the jerseys, and you have those 10% of people. And even if it's like 50% of people who think like this, but the 10%, the minority who are going to go out there and be like, "Oh, fuck these people who care about the jerseys." It's like a lot of people care about the jerseys. And in my personal experience, a lot of the people who don't like the aesthetics, don't like the jerseys, never played sports. I don't know a lot of guys who like really were into sports in high school or college or even up who don't like jersey aesthetics. It's almost pretty damn rare to me for people who don't like jerseys who didn't play sports. Nonetheless, let people have their piece. Let people have fun. You don't have to actively like shoot them down and piss in their Cheerios. And with that being said, I care about the jerseys, so I'm excited to see exactly what they're going to be. But that's something else that came out. And the 10%, stop being fucking grumps and let people have their fun. I don't care about jerseys. Wear tutus. Okay, dude, keep that to yourself. You don't have to actively make yourself looking an asshole. Matt says, what do you think Joe Douglas has to do to get this team to win the AFC East, and who's the real competition to do so, Miami or Buffalo? I think they're both real competition. Now, who do I think is more competition? I'd probably say Buffalo because they've been there for the last few years. Now, they don't really do much to get into the playoffs. But with that being said, looking at both Buffalo and Miami, I think both of their cap situations are not great. Like it's either the Bills or the Dolphins are like minus like 30, 40, maybe even $50 million in cap space right now. So I think they're both realistic like contenders for the AFC East, but I also think they're taking a step down or two the ladder, while hopefully the Jets are adding and going to take steps or jumps up the ladder. Now, what needs to be done to get this team to win the AFC East? It's the major holes that we've all talked about, right? It's 2 tackles. You need 2 tackles, in my opinion, the minimum. You need 3 offensive linemen. You need one on interior offensive lineman. I am counting Laken Tomlinson as good as gone. He has to be gone. He's not worth $13 million in no world. In no world, he's worth what he's being paid. Get rid of him, replace him. So you need one interior offensive lineman. You need 2 tackles, in my opinion. You're not moving ABT to guard or to tackle, in my opinion. You keep him at guard. So 3 of those guys. Past that, you need another playmaker at receiver. Now we are all hoping that it's going to be some stud lockdown too, Pittman or Calvin Ridley or whatever your flavor is. I think that's option A. I think option B is also probably more so realistic, but also fine enough. Could be like a which everybody's been talking about, like these 2 guys, but it's like the Curtis Samuels, Tyler Boyd's of the world. If you can't get the Michael Pittmans, pair those 2 guys up together. So attacking, getting another playmaker or 2 or 3 offensive linemen at the minimum. And I think from there, it's on defense. You need to bring back Quentin Jefferson. You need to bring in another run stuffer. You need to find a starting strong safety, whether that be just re-signing Chuck Clark or getting another guy in free agency who's a little bit lesser tier. I think those are the major holes. 2 or 3 on the offensive line. I'm saying 3 holes in the offensive line, 1 big hole at receiver, safety, D tackle. You got 6 big holes to fill. And then 7 big holes to fill, backup quarterback. So that's 7 big holes to fill. Like, in my opinion, unnegotiable. You need to fill those 7 spots again. Receiver, guard, tackle, safety, D tackle, quarterback. Figure them out. Again, not every sign. It doesn't have to be Chauncey Gardner Johnson. We could sign, again, just Chuck Clark that works as plugging the holes. So you don't have to fill everything with the golden ticket. Now, with that being said, I think there's also some secondary needs, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I want to look up some guys, but you could use, or I think they need a running back 2 on this team. Who's running back 2 right now? Because if you're just banking on Izzy, that's sketchy. He didn't really prove much of anything, and obviously he didn't have the best opportunity to prove much of anything because the offensive line was complete balls. But you have to get another running back. I think that a tight end could be a possibility. Again, not Bowers. I'm not saying Dalton Schultz. I'm not saying any one of these guys. But could you bring another tight end? Has Ruckert proven enough this year to be tight end 2? You're getting rid of Uzama. They were already apparently interested in Michael Mayer last year. So if you're interested in Michael Mayer last year, you had Uzama, you had Ruckert. Who's to say you're not going to be interested in at least adding something at tight end? So I think that's another secondary need. D tackle. I don't think it's really a secondary need at this point because I mentioned it before. Safety. Yeah, so I guess running back and tight end are 2 kind of secondary needs on offense that people aren't talking about. What's your take on Huff? Keep him or not? Can McDonald take his place? I think it's possible that McDonald can take his place, Matt. With that being said, am I confident that McDonald is going to take the step from being a quasi-productive guy in very limited snaps to being one of the best edge rushers in the NFL from year 1 to 2? I'm not going to take that leap. Do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think it's likely this year or even next year? Probably not. So I'm re-signing Huff, to the best of my ability. I think Jason Fitzgerald, I'm not sure. I think it's Jason Fitzgerald. I apologize if I'm wrong. Maybe it's like Spot Track or something. Jason's from OTC, I believe, still. So I know he said he has an inkling that the Jets are going to sign him at the 11th hour before free agency, which if so, great. But I also want to follow that up with, I don't think it's smart for the Jets to bring back Huff unless they can make it work. Yeah, there is a world they can make it work, but I'm trying to speak from the realm of realism. I think if you bring back Huff, you got to get rid of JFM, right? I know people are going to say why are you getting rid of your good players? Because they don't have a lot of cap room. I think right now they have $5 million. Again, I just had 7 they need. So can you afford to keep Q? I just think about all the resources into the defensive line. Q, $25 million a year. JJ, first round pick. McDonald, first round pick. Bryce Huff, let's just say $18 million a year. $18 million a year. You have JFM, $14, $15 million a year. How much money can we possibly pour into that position? And we're not even talking about filling our needs at D tackle because you need 2 D tackles right now. Because right now, you need 3, right? Because you have Q, and that's it. Solomon Thomas is not under contract. Quinn Jefferson is not under contract. Al Woods is not under contract. So I don't think you can just pour all those resources in when you don't have 3/5 of a starting offensive line, when you don't have, 2 or 3 wide receivers. Like, there's a lot that they need on offense, so overload defensive line, it's a luxury, if we somehow nailed the other picks and all that, and Becton worked out and Lazard worked out, then maybe. But unfortunately, some of those signings, some of the picks that we made in the past did not work out. So you kind of have to maybe take from a great strength just to balance out the roster. I know that people want to say, "Oh, just keep your good players," but can you keep JFM and afford Curtis Samuel? And obviously, I'm not just saying Curtis Samuel over JFM because Curtis Samuel's going to cost $7-8 million and JFM's 14. But would you rather have Curtis Samuel and I don't fucking let's just say Curtis Samuel and Boyd, or JFM? This is considering this is with the thought that Huff is on the team. You guys tell me. Like, if you had to choose, and obviously it's not that exact price, and it might be a little bit more than JFM, but for the sake of it, JFM, Tyler Boyd, and Curtis Samuel. I'm taking Curtis Samuel and Tyler Boyd with Huff. I am. So those are my thoughts. McDonald has the ability. Like, he is freaky bendy. He is freaky explosive. His power for his size is surprising. Tony says, "How are you, Joe? Great show. I appreciate that, Tony. I'm doing pretty well. I'm not excited to go back to work in a couple of days, but nonetheless, it's what it is." We follow as a fan on social media and just wants to be liked. It's pathetic. Oh, he follows Woody. Yeah, it's gross. Your top 5 wide receiver that would be there in the 2 through 4. So Seamoon, again, I'll be very transparent. I don't look at other draft reports, and I don't watch all these guys, and I don't just read a scouting report and again put my opinion out there like it's my own after watching YouTube highlights. I've done very little research past the first round guys, even past the top 10 guys. Just transparency. This show will be a lot more about free agency, the free agents we sign, and then getting into the draft more towards the draft. But for me to say, "Oh, I like, John McClinsky out of UMass round 3 receiver," because I read one scouting report of him, I'm not going to do it. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. What I can say about my big board, though, in terms of receivers is, or just a quick thing about receivers. Some people have put Odunze over Neighbors. I would like to know why. Legitimately, I would like to know why, unless you have a thing about size, which I think in the NFL is generally massively overstated. Like, "Oh, we need a big guy opposite of Garrett." Why? Why? Now, I would understand somebody if they were like, "Hey, we need an X receiver because let's just say whoever's a good, let's just say this is not real because Justin Jefferson is amazing at releases, but Justin Jefferson can't get off of press release. He's really, really good at the Z or the slot because he's afforded some more room at the line of scrimmage. We need a guy who can win versus press, so that's our X." Okay, I understand that. That makes more sense to me when you're saying, "Oh, we need more size." Okay, so let's say if Malik Neighbors is Antonio Brown and, I don't know, what we're doing is AJ Green. Like, Antonio Brown might be the better player, but because we need the AJ Green size, we're going to take him over Antonio Brown. You should take the better receiver. Like, give me Antonio Brown over AJ Green. Obviously, I'm not saying those guys are them. I know some people will run with that, but I would like to know why. Neighbors is comfortably above him, in my opinion. Neighbors is my number 1 prospect that I've watched out of the 7, even comfortably above Alt for me. I like Neighbors a lot. Neighbors he's pretty nasty. There's some things he needs to work on. Fighting for the ball in traffic. There's some body catches there. I think his top end speed is probably a little bit overstated, but his agility and his quicks are pretty stupid. They're pretty stupid. His Woody change and his pendant is pure cringe. Yeah, it was cringe, right, Captain K Techno? It was kind of funny at the time where he walked in with the big salt, with the big Woody chain. Okay, he dropped a couple of grand to have a moment with the guys, but then when you start wearing it around all the time, yeah, it's definitely a little bit out of touch cringe, you know. Would you like Garoppolo as a backup for Aaron? Well, I saw he was just suspended for two games, but I would anticipate Garoppolo still getting a lower tier starting gig. Blitz crew. He's a guy who he's going to get, and it's hard to say exactly. I didn't watch him, his stats and all that, but you'd anticipate him getting $15 million a year, $20 million a year. That last chance guy. Let's say I don't know, like what's a good situation? The Bucks, like the Bucks aren't able to re-sign, Baker Mayfield for some reason, and he goes there, or you know, well, here I went to the Raiders, but some team who's like kind of in flux, who's not going to have, they're not necessarily ready to tear it all down with a rookie, but they're kind of in like that gray area. I would say is a spot for him. The Bucks comes to mind. I'm sure there's some other ones I just can't. There's definitely ones like I can't think of right now. Um, I think the Titans to like Mentor Levis or something like that. I think he's still getting a starting spot at the end of the day, or at least too much money. Even Brissett might talk himself into a low tier starting spot or too much money. I think like Gardner Minshew is a guy who's like not going to get a starting spot. You know, so Tom Cahill says, "Hey Joe, there's a lot of interior offensive linemen in the middle rounds. Should we keep Tippy at guard and take a center?" So I again don't want to speak to the guys individually. What I could say with Tippmann is, and this is kind of just it's pretty point blank here is Tippmann has the flexibility to play guard or center. That's it. That's all you needed from what I just said. He could play guard or center. So when you're going into the draft and you're going into free agency, go in and target, your best center, your best guard. Target them both. If one signs, then okay, Tippmann's in the other spot. That's it. I feel like Tippmann was just at least the 2 or 3 games he played at guard. He was just as good at guard as he was the rest of the season at center, unless he played guard again. And I'm just misremembering. He might have. But he's the same player at both spots. So I would. And by the way, Tippmann too, in terms of some of his weaknesses, he does need to improve versus strength. Fletcher Cox played like I think he played 12 snaps in the Eagles game total. 5 or 6 of those, Fletcher Cox ate his lunch because Fletcher Cox probably watched him, saw low hands, wide hands. I'm taking that chest, and he did pretty consistently, and he's on his face a little bit too much, so he has to deal with that. In terms of improving, and he was at guard in that game, I believe. Yeah, he has flexibility. Play him at either. I'm much more in the mindset of play around with Pittman, center guard, or whatever for this season at least. Or how do I want to word that? He's flexible right now, but you don't want to keep fucking around with him, right? So I don't want to go into the season at right guard or left guard or center, and you're gonna play, let's just say right guard, right guard, right guard, right guard this entire year, and then next year, we want you back at center. Like, no, none of that bullshit. But he has enough flexibility right now where you could decide either way. So center or guard. I'm fine with either one in free agency, and then the other one is Pittman. I would like to see it be. I think our starting 5 or our 5 interior offensive linemen are a combination of Tippmann, ABC. Let's just say it's Zeitler at left guard or right guard. I think McGovern's going to be brought back for $1 million or $2 as like a swing backup. As a swing guard or a center backup. I think he's very, very good depth. And then you have Schweitzer still here. And those are probably your 5 guys. On the interior, the exterior, I'm anticipating it being an Isaiah Wynn, not an Isaiah Wynn, like a Trent Brown or other guy's name I'm blanking out now from New England, him, or a starting level guy, Jonah Williams, and then the other tackle is going to be a draft guy. The swing tackle should also be signed in free agency, in my opinion. Whoever that may be. I do think there's a chance for like other guys too. I saw George Fant. He had those comments this week. I think it was maybe an ESPN article or something like that was talking about top 5 options for the Jets to avoid, I believe, in free agency. I didn't read the whole thing. I don't know who it was from, but I think George Fant was the number 1 option to avoid. And then George Fant commented, he's like, I'm sick of people just relying on it on PFF, which crazy. I completely agree. Watch the film for yourself. And he had a pretty good year with the Texans. So could you see Fant be brought back to play left tackle for the Jets? Again, not something to necessarily write home about, but like a C plus B type of move. Can you bring in 2 guys? Is it maybe Fant? I think an ideal world is being again realism. I don't want to say the Jets are going to sign the 2 tackles on the market, but let's say they sign Onwenu. That was the guy I forgot about, by the way. Let's say they sign Onwenu. Okay, not necessarily a home run, but for this free agency, a nice triple. It's a nice triple of a hit in free agency for the Jets. We'd love to sign Tyron Smith too, but shit, we're not going to be able to afford it. George Fant for $5-6 million a year, and then you have Fant and you have Onwenu, but George Fant's not necessarily going to prohibit you from drafting a guy at 10, right? Now, if you let's say if you sign Trent Brown and Onwenu and you're both costing you $15 million a year, you're probably not going to draft a tackle. At least it's going to steer you away from that direction. Signing Fant for $5, $6, $7 million a year is not going to prohibit you from that. So I think that's a good option. Past that, if you can't land a Fant, then get a Kelvin Beachum. Somebody in here to play for $3 or $4 million who's a swing tackle. You need a swing tackle. It absolutely unequivocally cannot be Max Mitchell. It absolutely unequivocally cannot be Carter Warren. I don't know where people are getting the Carter Warren stuff. I don't know if Damian Woody typed in PFF grade Carter Warren and then just went based on that, because if he's watching him, he either one doesn't know what he's watching, or two, it's just PFF, right? It's either one of those two things, because you cannot watch the film of his 6 starts and say, I'm comfortable with this guy as potentially starting tackle for the Jets. There's absolutely no way. And I don't know if it's Damian Woody or I think it was reproducible, to be honest. So, sorry, I didn't see this. $2 super chat from Blitz Crew. Would you like Garoppolo as a backup for Aaron? Which I think I just answered, but I didn't highlight it. But nonetheless, I appreciate the super chat. Just to reiterate, just in case, Blitz Crew, I think he's going to get a lower tier starting gig, or at least too much money. It might be a situation where you bring him in, let's say, I'm trying to think of the exact team. Jimmy Garoppolo goes to the Pats. He goes back to the Pats. They draft Jaden Daniels at 3, and he either starts over Jaden, or then you have to figure out the first 2 games. But you get what I'm saying. I think he's going to go with a rookie quarterback that allows you to either ease the rookie quarterback in, or if the rookie quarterback takes off, then you don't feel that bad about benching Garoppolo, but you have great depth. Or is a team who's kind of in that gray area where they're not necessarily going to compete, they're not necessarily going to, tear it down like the Falcons or something like that, even though they're going to shoot for higher. But kind of feel what I'm saying. But I appreciate the super chat. Unfortunately, as we know, he is big into Jets Twitter. I'm guessing he probably watches plenty of YouTube content. I don't know. I think it's pretty easy to just click on Twitter and just scroll through a couple of tweets. It takes a lot of time to watch these, but I don't know. What should we do with Huff? We should sign him to a $16, $17, $18 million a year deal. If not, I say you try to tag and trade him. But I'm hoping you keep him and get rid of JFM. So mad and makes no changes at the top. Yeah, Nick Russo. That's what we talked about this 2 weeks ago. The Jets just making no changes and getting rid of a running backs coach, and then bringing in the running backs coach dues from the Titans wasn't enough changes to me. I know the receiver coach left too, and you brought back Sean Jefferson. Again, not enough of a change for me. So they bitched all year. They threw up their hands. Aaron Rodgers is hurt. What are we going to do? Woody Johnson kind of endorsed it. Yeah, what are we going to do? Our starting quarterback's hurt. And then he gets in from the media. I don't know if he had a couple of margaritas or whatever it was. And he's like, I'm the maddest I've ever been. It's like, okay, well, why didn't you say that 3 months ago or 2 months ago when they were losing and being embarrassing and blown out versus divisional opponents on the road? Why didn't you say that then? I don't know. I don't know. Which free agents are you retaining for the Jets? Oh, sure. Hold on. Let me do something on my phone. I just deleted that poll by accident. I'm legitimately curious to see what that poll was, because I'm going to base it off of that. Next, I'm going to say MC2. MC2 Quincy Conk Q with 0 votes out of 22. Okay, MC2 and Quincy it is. Interesting. MC2 Quincy. Let me update my list. MC2 right there. And Quincy. Then I'll put up a poll for the other ones later on. Quincy Williams. Wow, Quincy Williams over Q. Okay. So what Jets free agents am I retaining? Let's see Jets free agents list. Jets free agents 2024. I'll share my screen once I pull it up. Okay. Free agents tracker for the Jets. All right. And StreamYard and preset. Share screen. We're going to share Chrome tab. This Chrome tab. All right. Jets free agents. Carl Lawson. No. Dwayne Brown. No. Jordan Whitehead. No. Chuck Clark. Yes. Give me Chuck Clark all day. I really like Chuck Clark. Now there are some other options out there. Maybe we'll look at them in a little bit. Jeremy Chin or, some of these other guys who might be out there who might be a little bit of an upgrade over Chuck Clark. But overall, I am completely happy with Chuck Clark as a starting strong safety. So yes to Clark, Yes to Huff. Yes to Quentin Jefferson. Again, 6 or 7 sacks in 12 or 13 games that he played. A guy who I thought was underrated coming to the Jets. A lot of people said, kind of talk shit about his run defense. But then when you factor in, he was 2-gapping a lot with the Seahawks. I thought his run defense would get better in a single gap penetration type defense, and it did. He balled out. So I definitely want these 3 guys. And I would probably say, just not looking at the top of, actually, there are some other guys I want to retain. So let's just do it again. No, yes for the reasons I said, yes for the reasons I said, yes for the reasons I said. I couldn't give 2 shits less. If Randall Cobb is receiver 6, fine. If not, is what it is. Would I rather a 5th-round rookie than Randall Cobb? Yes. So I'm going to say no. Greg Zuerlein, yes. Solomon Thomas, yes, for sure. Good depth guy, good locker room guy. I would very much enjoy Solomon Thomas back. Justin Hardy, yes, to an extent. I think that you notice that the special teams unit is different when Hardy is out. With that being said, I do think Irv Trails replaced him well at times. So I would say yes, depending on price, kind of like an asterisk next to this. And I think that kind of applies for every guy, yes, with an asterisk. It's like, oh, you said yes to Quinn Jefferson. That means you want to sign him for $30 million a year. Okay, I get that. So they're all yes with asterisks. But specifically for Hardy, I don't want to pay him like $3 or $4 million a year to make tackles on special teams. 2 to 3. Okay. We're talking about like $4 million. No. Al Woods, I think he's going to retire. So no. We got Connor McGovern. I would say unequivocally yes. I very much hope that he is back as a swing guard, backup center. I don't necessarily want him starting on an ideal offensive line. But with that being said, if I told you that the starting line is, let's say this allows the Jets to splurge elsewhere, your starting line is Connor McGovern or AVT left guard, Connor McGovern center, Tippmann right guard with Onwenu at right tackle and, Fashanu at left tackle. If it allows you to splurge elsewhere, okay, then I'm with it. But if you have Connor McGovern and George Fant as 2 of your starting offensive linemen, okay, then I'm going to get pissed. If he's your weakest link in your offensive line, I think that's a good weakest link. Billy Turner, no. Kenny Yeboah couldn't give 2 shits less. Ashton Davis, yes. Thomas Morstead, yes, definitely. Simeon, no. Guidry, I'd actually bring back. Hanson, no. Nye, no. Bryce Hall, yes. Newman Johnson, no. Zach Kuntz, I couldn't care less about. So there's a couple of ones I'm like more indifferent there. Like Bryce Hall, I prefer it. I think he's a guy who's a good depth player for sure. When he's asked to play, he's actually pretty solid. Guidry got injured, but I think he's actually a decent depth slot guy. Thomas Morstead, unequivocal, yes. Please sign him. Ashton Davis, a little bit indifferent, but yes, for sure. McGovern, again, a little bit more indifferent, but yes, for sure. Hardy, same thing. Lukewarm, yes. Thomas, lukewarm, yes. Zuerlein, absolutely. Quentin Jefferson, absolutely. Huff, absolutely. Chuck Clark, absolutely. So there you go. Let's see. While we're here, why not just look up some other free? I'm going to look up some free agents at some positions that we don't necessarily talk about a ton. So can we just do, is there a way to do all here? I'm sure there is, right? Or no? Can you cancel out team? Tracker position. Okay, hold on. Let me just go back to this. I'm going to, hold on. 2024 NFL free agents. I'm going to look at some other guys who are available at some positions, again, that we're not necessarily talking about. And then let me go back to Spot Track, free agent tracker, studio, share my screen back, preset, window, Chrome tab. Okay, share. All right. Some of the positions that we're not talking about that I want to look at a little bit. Running back, I think we did this a couple of weeks ago. Again, we kind of know who's at receiver. We know who's at interior offensive line. We know who's at offensive tackle. But some of the running backs, I really haven't looked at so much. Henry, going to be outpriced. Jacobs, outpriced. Tony Pollard, outpriced. Barkley, cool story, outpriced. Eckler, older, concerning signs, outpriced. Patterson, Gus Edwards, I don't think it's a bad option. Singletary, probably outpriced. He had a pretty good year with Houston, but he would be like the upper tier of backups I would see as like a realistic option for the Jets. So I would say sure to or definite yes to Singletary. DeAndre Swift, okay. I think he's a solid player. I would take a flyer on him. Who else we got in here? J.K. Dobbins, a lot of injuries, but when he's healthy, pretty good, at least to my very little knowledge, transparently. Kareem Hunt, sign me up. I don't know how he performed with Cleveland this year necessarily, but the years prior, sign me up. AJ Dillon, I think that the whole Packers thing might get a little bit overblown if they do sign him. I think he's actually a decent back. Who's the exact like complement you want to Brees in terms of like a power back. We need that. So I would take him. Gibson, a little bit more of like a scat guy. I could see that. Zach Moss is a good one. So I think there's some, I would like even Zonovan Knight back, like Zonovan Knight as our running back 4, I would take. But some of the names I would highlight that I would legitimately like: Zach Moss, AJ Dillon, Kareem Hunt, Dobbins, Swift, Singletary, I think are some good names to keep an eye out on for running back, because again, I don't think they have their guy. Another need that I think is a little bit underrated. Again, we talked about receiver a lot. Tight end. Could they sign a guy? Again, I'm not talking about one of the guys at the top who are at the top. I know Schultz is a free agent this year. Are we talking about Hunter Henry, Schultz, Garrett Everett, Mike Gesicki, Noah Fant, Hooper? No, not one of those guys, but I think having another guy may be, I think the Jets are considering. Tunyon. Do I have to say the reasons why? I don't think Tunyon would be a bad option at all. Bring in Tunyon, reunite him with Rodgers as your tight end too, and then your tight ends are Conklin, Tunyon, Rucker. Okay, sign me up for that. I'll take that. Irv Smith's a guy who I liked a little bit out of the draft, but he hasn't really produced. I think that's not a bad guy to take a shot on. Is there anybody else who I recognize in here? Like I would want who stick out? Not really a ton. Not really a ton, but it's something that I don't think that should always slip your mind. I think the Jets bring in a Tunyon, an Irv Smith, maybe a Noah Fant, like something like that is definitely possible for the Jets. I'm going to go. I was thinking about D tackle. The only problem with D tackle is just transparently, I don't really remember a lot of guys if they're like, these are guys who I want who are a little bit more like, the Jets want both a Quentin Jefferson, who's a little bit more slender, and we also want a beefy guy. So I recognize names, but I don't recognize like styles and weight. So I don't want to oversell anybody or undersell anybody. Chris Jones, no. Reader, no, just for price. Stewart, option. Fletcher Cox is an option. My problem with Fletcher Cox is there's a lot of issues with the locker room in Philadelphia, and Fletcher Cox is one of the leaders of the room. He also had some weird comments about the Jets, like, oh, Robert Saleh said we're gonna hit Jalen Hurts a lot, whatever, and he made a comment back to it that was a little bit like soft. What exactly did he say? We're gonna hit him 12 times, or I forget exactly what that comment was. But Fletcher Cox option, Sheldon Rankins reunion, I think is possible. With the Jets, Javon Kinlaw, Wilkins isn't going to happen, obviously. Linval Joseph, not sure how he produced last year at all, but a couple of years ago, decent. There's some names out there. There's some names. Shelby Harris, Quentin Jefferson, Javon Kinlaw, Daquan Jones, Justin Jones, Sheldon Rankins, Cox, Grover Stewart. There's some names there to look at as well. And the last one I want to go to is safety. We'll do regular safeties because this is something that the Jets legitimately have to consider, because I think Jordan Whitehead his contract was voided, so he is free to sign with anybody as of tomorrow. So the Jets most likely need a strong safety because Tony Adams is your free. Micah Hyde, that guy, sign me up for Micah Hyde. Gardner Johnson, I would a little bit cautious about how his antics. So Hyde, yes. Gardner Johnson, Chuck Clark, sign me up. J. Ron Kearse, sign me up. Savage, Green Bay connection. Not sure how he's played, but from my understanding, at least an okay player. Sign me up. Mike Edwards, vet safety for the Chiefs, relatively solid to my knowledge. Sign me up. Again, this is a position I don't think the Jets need a stud. Like, I'm not going to talk about a bunch of like mid-tier vets at tackle or at receiver and just say sign me up. But we're talking about how bad the Jets were at strong safety, in my opinion, last year. Replacing Jordan Whitehead, a bad player, with an average player, you're going to get a jump up from that position automatically with just that. Now take Tony Adams from year 2 to 3, really kind of year 1 to 2, step up. Kyle Duggar, sign me the hell up for Kyle Duggar. Xavier McKinney, pretty solid year at the Giants to my knowledge. Sign me up for that. There's some names out here, man, at safety. Jeez. Jeremy Chin, Ryan Neal, I know was a little bit of a hot commodity last year. Deron Hardman. There's John Johnson. I think he sucked this year, right? But there's a lot of names at safety. I think the Jets have a pretty clear path there to bringing in somebody at least decent. So I just want to do that really, really quickly, go through some of those names. I want to also I'll just go through my stuff I wrote down really quickly. The only other thing I wrote down, Pauline article. I don't even know what Tony Pauline said. So if you guys know, tell me. If not, I really don't care that much. The guy is a habitual liar. I don't give two fucks about what he says. Sorry. There's my opinion. Past that, the only other kind of rumors we've been hearing about this week that I want to recap before just getting into the rest of the chat is the Brandon Ayuk rumors. Again, I'll be straightforward with this one as well. Sign me up. That dude is a good player. Again, relatively limited knowledge because it's not like I watch him all the time. When I do watch him, I think he's a good player. I think he's largely overrated. I think he's really good at route running, which is great with Aaron Rodgers. So if you could trade a pick for him, whatever that pick may be, to get I think he's 25, 26-year-old stud receiver at the NFL level, sign me up all day. What does it cost? You're talking about I think he had like 12 or 1,300 yards this season. Guy who's 25 years old, entering his prime. You're talking about at least, I would say, a first round pick level. Now, is it a possibility? I don't want to get into the chart and all that. Would you guys accept a trade package of the Niners pick at 31, move down from 10 to 31? You have a bunch of analysts out there who are saying, hey, there's going to be 6, 7, 8 offensive tackles in this draft. Would you guys trade down? And I don't know exactly what the value is of a trade down, but in general, would you guys, and I'm not going to put it in a poll, maybe I should, but would you trade down? And this might not even be enough. It might be honestly like a trade down and a third or a fourth next year or something like that. It might not even be enough, but in general, the base or the crux of the deal is Jets get Brandon Ayuk and pick 31. The Jets trade down from 10 to 31. Would you guys do it? Because I would. Sign me up. Sign me up for that. But the rumors come from just the fact that the Niners have a ton of players on huge contracts. They don't have a lot of cap space. They already have Debo on a massive contract. So can they afford Brandon Ayuk? I don't know. Let's see the value chart. I know this isn't necessarily like gospel here, but NFL draft value chart. Okay, let's see. Again, this is not an exact science. It's kind of more like a baseline, but the Jets are pick 10, which by Draft Tech's value chart is 1,300 points. Pick 31 is 600 points. So you are talking about a 700 point difference. So you're talking about basically the equivalent of pick 26 next year. So I think somebody in the chat said you're better off just trading next year's first. If you're saying that next year's first is like going to be worse or better than pick 26, then okay. If you're saying it's going to be worse because the Jets are in the Super Bowl, then yeah, great. Unfortunately, we're Jets fans, so that's most likely not going to happen. And I understand the value kind of changes from year to year. But it's about the 27th pick worth or so, or whatever I just said. Yeah, the 26th pick worth. So you might have to throw in a little bit more. You might have to throw in 26, or sorry, that trade down and a 2025 third or fourth round pick. And even with that being said, even with a third or fourth round pick next year, I'm doing it. That's just my opinion. I'm curious about your guys' opinions on that as well. I'll keep moving down. Classic PR move for disintegrating organization attempting to, I think that's the first time I've ever seen her said that word, attempt to explain, excuse the leadership's feckless incompetence, leak stories about behind the scenes frustration, politicians, maybe politics. I fucking bunch of crooks, dude, all of them. Okay, let's see. I'm going to keep just scrolling down in the chat. Prospect with Dom C. I'm just going to say Dom C, right? Joe, maybe you touched on it and I missed it. What are your thoughts on Tippin at guard? I think he played well there. His movement skills, I think, could be beneficial more so at guard than center. Yeah, it's so I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50. The thing I don't like about him at guard versus him at center is I think centers, you're actually uncovered more and you can actually use your athleticism more at center because you're not typically covered as much and you have guards help. With guards, just based on how schemes work, guards are more ISO'd, and they typically get contact quicker. So my only concern with him is him versus powerful 3-techs. Now, obviously, you have more of a, like, you could say, okay, well, I have more of a concern with him versus powerful 0-techs who are even bigger. Gotcha. That I completely get that. But there's going to be far often 3-techs isolated with guards more so than a nose tackle straight up on a center, or even a 1-tech who doesn't have help, or when he doesn't have help from a guard. So I think the lack of power per se at center would actually expand itself in a worse way at guard, just because I think you'd see quicker contact there. I think his lateral ability and his explosion actually works better at center than it does at guard. But with that being said, I think it's kind of a 50-50 thing with him. Now the sample size was small with him at guard. I only watched, let me escape. Let me tell you exactly how much I've watched so far, because it's not the entire season yet. I've watched weeks 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. So I think 3, 4, that was New England, Kansas City. Week 6 was the Eagles game. He only played 12 or 13 reps at guard. And then week 9 was a Chargers game, which was like 80 reps on offense, which was wild. That was his first game at center. So a lot of my exposure to him has been at guard versus center, but I don't really see a big drop off, at least initially. And I didn't notice a drop off last year from one to the other. So I think he's kind of even at both. So I think he offers you true flexibility to answer that question. Let's see. With that in mind, would you resign McGovern? I know you're asking Dom there. I specifically would, not necessarily saying that he needs to be the starting center next year. Do I think that's the absolute worst case scenario? No, I don't. Yeah. But either way, I think he's fine. I think he's fine at both. Let's see. Missed the Santonio Holmes, Braylon Edwards, Dustin Keller days. Good times. With that being said, I think that let's say the Jets add, let's go mid-tier. Let's not strike out. Let's not strike out for a home run, even though I think he kind of would be. Let's say he's a triple. So we're kind of being a little bit more on the positive side here. Let's say Calvin Ridley. It's not even Higgins or anybody like that. If your skill group is Calvin Ridley, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Tyler Conklin, give me that all day over Holmes, Braylon Edwards, and Dustin Keller. Yeah. People believe that bigger receivers are more productive in the red zone, which is true in some cases, but not a rule without exception. Yeah, I think that's like, honestly, Uncle Irish or Iro, it's kind of lazy. You know, I think people just think, okay, less space, bigger guy, throw the ball up, 50-50 ball. But 50-50 balls aren't successful often. Like, it's not, I rather take Antonio Brown on a whip route than I don't know, whoever else on a fade. You know, like, give me the whip route versus the fade if the guy running the whip route's the right guy. If it's, again, bad examples, I'm not trying to compare them like historically or anything like that, but red zone, the only information you're giving me is Antonio Brown whip route, Julio Jones fade. Give me the whip route. You know, so big guys will actually just win the red zone. So hit the like button, y'all. Yeah, I'm with that. I am with that. Only 37 people in here. Pretty light stream, but I know there's not a lot going on. All that. So, okay. I think the poll results indicate that we kind of know how awesome Q is already. We'd like to know how repeatable others' performance will be. Yeah, and that's why I was a little bit interested in doing the Michael Carter II's a stud too, but we haven't really I haven't done a review of him. I think he deserves his credit. Quincy, I think that he is very good. Do I think that he got there's always a shit end of a stick, and then what? There's a shit end and a dry end, I guess. I think he got the dry end of the stick in terms of some lucky breaks in coverage. That one I'm a little bit worried about. Just in terms of, I think he's still a stud. I think he's a little bit more volatile still than some people realize. But that's why we do them. Carter Warren, if you were a Carter Warren person saying, I trust whoever Carter Warren is a stud, you are not going to like my review. Which, again, they're all on the computer right now. So if I need to put up 45 plays of him getting waxed, then I will. But 75% easily of that review is pretty negative. John said, Joe, any thoughts, expectations for Mosley in 2024, given his age? And on a related note, how do you feel about our linebacker depth? I think he has to take a pay cut. Now, will he? I don't know, but I think he's going to be around just because he is one of the leaders of the locker room. Do I think he's going to be around at $21 million? No. Whether that be moving some money around to future years or just, him straight up taking a pay cut, it's just not a tangible number, which is just not a realistic number. I do think he should be back. Now, in terms of the depth, question marks, right? Realistically, Sherwood has had flashes in a very small sample size. Flashes in a small sample size, not enough. So I'm not necessarily giddy about it. Zaire Barnes, I like the athleticism. A lot coming out of wherever the hell he came out of. We did the film review of him last year. Huge question mark. Chaz Surratt, huge question mark. So there are a lot of questions in terms of the depth. So if the question is kind of steering towards, hey, Mosley, big contract hit, can we get rid of him and start a Sherwood as a legitimate option? No, I don't think so. Now, am I comfortable with Sherwood? It's like a 3 right now. With the idea of him staying at 3, yes. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. After retaining everyone plus signing Fant, you would have $12 million on one player, wide receiver, offensive line. Who are you taking? After retaining everyone plus signing Fant, so I got one tackle. You have $12 million on one player, receiver, offensive line. Fuck, man, Tony, that's a good. There's so many off questions with this, right? Like, who are the players? Are they both worth $10 million? To me, I'm splitting the 12 and I'm giving $6 million to a receiver and 6 to an offensive lineman realistically. Now, I know that's not your question, but that's how I would answer that. Split the difference, 6 and 6. I would say, so there's two ways I'm thinking about this, and I'll let you know my thinking. The one way is me saying that you need to solidify your offensive line. That's more important than receiver in a vacuum. The other part of me is saying that receiver, or there's more offensive linemen in the available in the draft early on. So take the receiver, right? Did I say that right? Yeah. There's more offensive linemen available at 10 than there will be receivers. Like, let's say you get to 10 and at offensive line, you have Fashanu, you have Latham, you have Fuaga. Okay, we're comfortable with some of the options there. If you get to the 10th pick and you have the offensive lineman, let's say it's Fant and the $12 million on, again, I think he's probably get more, but let's just say Owenu for shits and giggles. If Odunze, if Neighbors are gone, who is the next guy you're taking? That's a sketchy ball game. So just because of the availability at the top, I would say a receiver and then try to draft that tackle. Realistically, you hope it doesn't come down to that. You hope the Jets can create some more space. And just saying that $12 million, even though it's not there was an A or B question, I'm going to draw C and say 6 and 6. Give me Kelvin Beachum and, I don't know, whoever a $6 million receiver is. Not Jamal. Go. I'll do Ayuk is a sure thing. The pick is not. Yeah, exactly. Freedom House. And I know my screen's shaking. Still have to find like an elevated desk for this. People are way too attached, in my opinion, to what picks could be. Now, I get the benefit of the pick. They're younger. Let's say Rome Odunze versus him. Okay, Rome Odunze is, let's just say 21 years old. I think he's 21, 22. He's 21 years old, let's say. He's 4 years younger. His contract is going to be $7-8 million, whatever it is, $6-8 million instead of $25 million a year for Ayuk. With that being said, Rome Odunze could be Kevin White, and then we're sitting there with Kevin White. We just don't necessarily want that. Are there any free agent receivers that you don't want? I guess we can go back to spot check. NFL. I can tell you one guy right off the top of my head is Odell Beckham. That is for damn sure. But in terms of like guys who I do or really don't want, again, I don't like to speak from places when I don't have like a really good knowledge base. Like, hey, I'm really comfortable in my opinion on this. So I don't want to say I hate this guy and then I actually really like him when I watch him. Mike Evans, yes, right? Odell Beckham, absolutely, unequivocally, no. Please, God, do not do that. Curtis Samuel, yes. Boyd, yes. Cedric Wilson, no. Bourne is not a bad guy. Now, if we're talking about, again, not necessarily a guy who's going to be somebody you write home about, but if he's like your 3 or your 4, I think you can get away with a. Is it Bourne? Or I think I was thinking about Jacoby Myers actually, but So actually scratch that. DJ Shark. Okay, I guess. Paris Campbell, no. Hardman, no. Barrios, no. Grant, no. Aguilar, no. Josh Reynolds, maybe, but he had a really bad playoff game. Marquise Brown, he has a connection with Sean Jefferson. I could see that. Ridley, yes. What other names are popping out to me? Claypool, absolutely not. Yeah, there's really not a lot of names here for whoever asks. I could see the Jets reigniting Scandling with Rodgers. I think he's a free agent. So yeah, like unequivocally off the top of my head, or off the top of my head with some very little research, is there anybody I do not want? I would say it's probably Odell. And then past that, just to give you another little nugget, and this is backed by, again, very little actual knowledge base. I think T. Higgins might be a little bit overpaid for what he actually is. I think he's a very, very good receiver, but I think he's going to get paid like a bona fide stud number one, and I don't think he's that necessarily, transparently, with not a lot of research behind it. If the Jets trade Zach, cut Uzama, cut Tomlinson, and restructure every single contract, they would have around $76 million. It would destroy the future. Yeah, you don't have to necessarily go all in, right? Like you don't have to do every single thing for this year. Like at a certain point, you have to find that, you have to be in that gray area and find like the median of both being overly extreme and too conservative. But with that being said, do I think the Jets are going to create quite a few $1 million in cap space, restructuring Mosley, cutting Tomlinson? Yes, I do. Because they have to. They have to go for it all. I'm not saying to blow everything up, but still. Tony says, I trust your analysis on Warren. Do you think he can grow into a starter in a couple of years? Is it possible? Yes. Is he very far away from me right now? Yes. At the same time. Bourne is good too. Jacoby Myers is legit wide receiver 2. Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. John, I kind of wanted to retract it just because I wasn't overly sure, but I'll kind of just, I guess I'll jump on the train with you here, or back on the train. I was kind of already on. Yes, Myers was legit, like starting level receiver. Bourne is more of that receiver 3 or 4 type of feel for me. At least when I watch him, I think he's at least an okay receiver, a starting level guy as like a 3 or a 4. Or sorry, not a starting level guy. He's a 3 or a 4. Like I'd rather have Kendrick Bourne on a slant route right now versus Alan Lazard. So Ron says, hey Joe, are you guys on the 4 on 4 off schedule? Also, would you guys mind having on patrol live riding with you? Be safe. No, we are not 4-4. I wish we could be 4-4. Right now we're 5-2, 5-3, which is actually not bad either. 5-2, 5-3. Would I mind somebody being in my car with a camera all the time? Yes. Like I already have a camera on enough. I have a camera on when I go to all my calls. Do I want a guy in the car with me for all the other hours where I'm not necessarily occupied, depending on the shifts on that? Sometimes it's 0 time being unoccupied. Sometimes it's 5 hours. You don't necessarily know. Would I want a camera guy who I have no idea about in my car? Fuck no. Absolutely not. What is the minimum you'd accept in a Zach trade? A 7th round pick? Like whatever we could get. I'm gonna minimize my. Hold on, actually, let me just pull that back up. I'm just gonna do this really quickly, and I'm gonna get out of here. I just want to show you guys. I'm just gonna do a few plays just in case. Let's do this. Okay, hold on. There's a lot of stuff on my screen. Preset, share screen. Entire screen, fuck it. And I have nothing. Maybe I have some stuff to hide. Nothing you're gonna see though. Okay. Minimize. Here we got Tippmann film. Minimize. Tippmann. What play am I on right now with Tippmann? Let's see what this happened. Oh yeah, good reach block. Okay, let's see Warren. Did I not save this? Why is this happening? Okay, delete, whatever. Carter Warren. I'm not gonna put the plays. I will eventually. 58 plays. I want to see how many plays of this. Like I'm just gonna start reading off some plays, and like how many of these are bad. Overset high into contact, stunt pickup. Okay, good one, good combo. Sack allowed, overset, beat, stuck on first level, missed second level, duck head. Good. Need to anchor down, overset, high beat, high hand use, inside punch, all or nothing, bad second level. Like there's a lot of bad in here. Terrible run. Let's see the terrible run. What do you see? The right tackle. Let's see terrible run play. Yeah. There is some bad. It's right tackle. There's a lot of bad with Warren that I saw. Fake jump. Let's not no scheme. Whiff second level. Face crossed. Easily said. Beat low hands. Beat blown assignment. Effort questions. Can't cut off backside. Beat. It's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be ugly. And I'll pull up the plays at a later time if you really want me to. But the actual review will be, I'm sure, plenty of enough for people who don't like watching bad football, because he played bad football this year. I'm sorry. Yes, cool. I'll take any pick for Zach Wilson. Yeah, Warren, another JD mid-round masterclass. Yeah, again, I don't know where the rumors of him playing well last year are coming from. PFF most likely, because that's the extent of research. Carter Warren, PFF. Oh, look, a good number. Oh, I think he could be good next year. I'm going to base my opinion on people who don't know what they're watching. Sorry. So I went back and I was like, fuck it, I'm watching, because I started to hear that talk a couple of weeks ago. So I decided, like, I'm going to watch him, Tony Adams, Ruckert, Tippmann, the guys who I have more questions about. Like one of the other chatters said before, I know what Q is. I know what Conklin is for the most part. Michael Carter II, Reed, Sauce, Brees, Wilson. But I was curious about the Tony Adams, Carter Warrens, Ruckerts of the world. So other front offices are able to reliably churn out mid-round OT starters. Maybe. Like I think a few pop up every year. Do I think that each team does it? No. Like it's like, how do I want to phrase that? There's a lot of hits in the mid rounds at offensive tackles, but it's not like every team does it. Like it might be 40% of the league, but because there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, it seems like there's a lot. But then there's another 28 guys who, or 20 players who aren't good. Like you might have 30 players taken in rounds 3 or 4 at offensive line, and like 7 of them work out. But because the guy you didn't take didn't work out, the guy you took didn't work out, and the guy that you didn't take did work out, it almost like exemplifies that you could have had that other guy. Like I'm speaking in really weird terminology right now. I don't think it's as much as you're saying it is, John. I think that the draft in general, people overrate how many good players good teams get. Like a lot of people will talk about, Ozzie Newsome. Go back and look at some of Ozzie Newsome's picks. Some of them were terrible, realistically. But is it frustrating that Joe Douglas has taken quite a few guys and none of them have worked out? Carter Warren, I didn't like the pick from the jump. I didn't. I said it. Didn't like it. Bad first year. Max Mitchell, didn't like the pick from the jump. My problem with his mid-round offensive lineman is, and it is what it is, and people are like, oh, these guys are 300 pounds, they can kick your ass. Yes, acknowledge that. For NFL level players and mindsets, Carter Warren and Max Mitchell are soft players. I don't like soft offensive linemen. I did like one of his mid-round offensive linemen, Cam Clark, who then had neck issues and never played a snap for the Jets, or at least a meaningful snap for the Jets. That's a guy who I wish could have played, because I think he would work out. My issue with JD's mid-round guys is he goes with guys with soft mindsets. And I don't like that, which is another thing I don't necessarily love about both Fashanu, soft mindset, rarely see him finish. Also, Joe Alt, a little bit of a soft mindset. You don't see him finish a ton. Guys like Fuaga, guys like Latham, they fucking finish. So yeah, John, I answered that really, really weirdly. I think there's a few, but I think you're maybe overestimating how much it really is. Maybe you're right. I don't know. Top tackles are drafted in the first round. Yeah, it's such a valuable position. Tackles, quarterbacks, obviously, DNs, receivers. You're starting to see really high all the time now. Warren was our best tackle last year. He will develop. Yeah, again, there's a lot of proof I have that he was not very good last year. Yes, he could develop. Was he terrible last year? Yes. That's really it. We love the chaos box. Yeah, again, I pull up quite a few plays there. I don't want to play them all right now because it's 7:38. I'm going to bounce off in a second, but they're out there. Yeah, okay. No more questions. Appreciate you guys jumping on hour and 40 minutes or hour and 30 minutes. And so again, not a ton to talk about. I'll be back most likely next Friday at 6. If I'm not, it's gonna be the next Friday. Again, not a lot of new information coming out. I will keep grinding away at the actual Jet player reviews and like kind of working behind the scenes, and then in preparation for free agency and all of that stuff. So I will catch you guys when